There's a painful question almost everyone avoids, not because it's complicated, but because it forces us to confront something we don't like admitting. Why do you keep making the same money mistakes, even when you know better? You know you shouldn't overspend. You know you should save more. You know that future you will regret the decision you're about to make. And yet, you make it anyway. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. This isn't stupidity. This isn't irresponsibility. This is psychology. And once you understand how it works, the cycle finally starts to break. Let's begin with something you've definitely felt before. You tell yourself you'll stop buying things you don't need until stress hits, or loneliness, or overwhelm, or boredom. Suddenly, the rule disappears, the logic collapses, and the better choice becomes invisible. Why? Because your brain isn't wired to make the right choice. It's wired to make the easiest choice. And that brings us to the first hidden mechanism, dopamine loops. Your brain loves the feeling of anticipation, not the actual purchase. A Stanford University study showed that dopamine spikes before the reward, meaning your brain rewards you for thinking about buying something, not owning it. This is why you can regret the purchase minutes later. The dopamine is gone, the logic returns, and shame arrives right on schedule. But dopamine is only the entry point. Let's go deeper. Another major reason you repeat money mistakes is cognitive depletion, the mental exhaustion that builds through your day. Think about it. By the time you finish making hundreds of small decisions, your brain's self-control is low, very low. University of Minnesota research shows that mentally tired people default to whatever choice requires the least effort, even if it's harmful. So you're not choosing the wrong thing. You're choosing the easiest thing. And companies know this. That's why online shopping peaks at night. Because tired brains don't argue, they surrender. But the story gets even more interesting. The next layer is avoidance. In behavioral psychology, avoidance is one of the strongest coping mechanisms for discomfort. When money feels stressful, you avoid looking at your account, avoid opening bills, avoid budgeting, avoid planning, avoid thinking about it. But here's the twist. Avoidance temporarily reduces anxiety, which reinforces the behavior. So your brain learns, when I avoid money, I feel safer, even though the consequences are worse long term. This creates a loop. Stress to avoidance to bigger problem to more stress to more avoidance. And this loop is brutal because eventually your avoidance turns into shame. Shame is powerful, but not in the way people think. Shame doesn't make you change. Shame makes you hide. The more ashamed you feel about your finances, the harder it becomes to face reality. And that shame makes it even easier to make the same mistake again, just to escape the feeling. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, but why did all this start in the first place? Now we enter the deeper psychological layer, the one most people never recognize. Your childhood money patterns. By age 7, research from the University of Cambridge shows that children already form basic money habits, not budgeting, but emotional patterns, like how safe money feels, whether they believe money disappears, whether they associate money with conflict, whether saving feels pointless, whether spending feels comforting. If you grew up hearing things like, we can't afford that, money goes fast, don't waste anything, or we'll figure it out later, your adult brain replays that script automatically, even if your circumstances changed. So when you make a money mistake, you're not acting as your present self. You're acting from a pattern built years ago. And this leads us to something even more surprising: identity conflict. If you subconsciously see yourself as someone who struggles with money, can't save, is bad at finances, or never gets ahead, your actions will always match that identity. Identity always beats intention. Always. You don't rise to the level of your goals. you fall to the level of your identity. And unless that identity shifts, every mistake will repeat, even if consciously you want to stop. But there's one final mechanism, the one that ties everything together: emotional regulation. Most money mistakes aren't about money at all. They're about soothing a feeling: loneliness, fear, exhaustion, insecurity, frustration. When your emotional system gets overloaded, your financial system becomes a casualty. Your brain doesn't ask, "What is the smart decision?" It asks, "What will make this feeling stop?" Money becomes a tool for emotional relief, a temporary sedative, a fast escape. But now, for the first time, you actually see the architecture of the cycle: dopamine to fatigue, to avoidance, to shame, to childhood patterns, to identity, to emotional relief. It's not one mistake repeating, it's one system repeating. You don't break the cycle with discipline, you break it with awareness. Because once you recognize the pattern, you interrupt the autopilot. You shift from reacting to choosing. And a single conscious choice is the beginning of rewriting every unconscious pattern. You've been fighting yourself for years without knowing why. Now you finally do.